Welcome, 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 ladies and gentlemen, to Ideas That Ignite! Ideas That Ignite! How y'all doing today? It is a Tuesday. It's a Tuesday, y'all. I haven't come to y'all on a Tuesday for I don't think ever. But I am so excited to have you all here today for the official kickoff of the Ideas That Ignite Mastermind. Yo, I am so excited to bring to you what we've been working on for the past couple of months behind the scenes, and as we've been bringing content, as we've been working on your stories, and as every single Thursday we've been thinking about different storytelling tips and tricks and all these different kind of things that are necessary as we start to build and we start to grow into end of 2020 and into 2021. So today, I'm beyond excited about the opportunity to share with you what we have in store for you as we think about launching into this new season. So, for those of you who are brand new to me, because I know that some of you are brand new to who I am, my name is Dawn Fraser, and I am a storytelling coach, speech coach, and I am the founder of this lovely group, the Ideas That Ignite group. For those of you who are familiar with organizations like The Moth, I've worked with The Moth, which is a storytelling organization based in New York City, where people stand up and they tell true stories live with no notes. It's kind of like their mantra. So they stand up, tell true stories live with no notes around the world. And I've been a coach with The Moth for about 8-ish, 10-ish, somewhere around there kind of years. So, and in that process of working with thousands of people across the world, there was a shift. There was a shift in me in what I wanted to be able to do with my life and what I wanted to be able to do with my stories. And that shift happened very organically because I was just loving this process of getting up and sharing stories. The challenge was how I was going to make a living off of it. What was I actually going to do with these stories? Because, if anybody knows about the storytelling scene, you might go, you might present, you might perform, you might get paid a little bit. But my dream was actually to get paid. I wanted to get paid. So, so today's presentation is a little bit about what I did, what shifted for me that made this paid storytelling thing a real opportunity. So from going and speaking with basically a very bare bones kind of an audience, right? Bars, that kind of stuff, to then larger venues, to then traveling the world, teaching other people how to share their stories. So go ahead and just, put, where you're coming at in the chat box, so I have a sense of where you're coming in from, and what's your goal, what's your dream, and we're just gonna kick off and jump right into the presentation. Y'all ready? All right. So let's see if we can get our presentation up. Boom. All right, so let's go ahead and make this full screen, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so I'm going to give you all a little bit of context. So the year was 2010, and as I mentioned to you, I was really interested in sharing my stories. It just seemed like a really fun thing to do. I was involved in all these different activities and programs, but storytelling was really the thing that was capturing my attention. So I enrolled in a course at a place called The Pit. Now, The Pit is a space in New York City where creatives can take everything from writing your memoir to putting together a package for SNL. So I enrolled in a storytelling class, and these are some of the people who were in my class, March 2010. This class, this program that I did 10 years ago, 10 years ago was the beginning of so much change in my life. And I mean, yeah, I'm just gonna go into like what happened to me. So in my case, I have always been fascinated with Black culture, barbershops, and also ways to kind of build unity and community amongst different people. So my idea back in like 2012 was to have a show called Barbershop Stories. And this show was specifically intended to be inside of a barbershop. And to me, it didn't matter if you were Black, if you were white, if you were Asian, if you were Latino, if you were non-binary, LGBT, like it did not matter to me. What did matter was if you had a story that connected us. If you had a story that its principles, its values kind of connected us all, I wanted you to share it inside of a barbershop. Because chances are, if you're not Black, you probably have never been inside of a Black barbershop. And in my case, I had never been inside of a white barbershop. So I wanted to be able to kind of create this cultural opportunity for people to share their stories naturally inside of a Black barbershop. And I loved it. I absolutely loved putting on these shows. People would get their hair cut, as you can see from the gentleman on the right. We had comedians, and we would essentially pack these shops with all kinds of people who were there for music, entertainment, food, and stories. And I absolutely loved this process. This is another shop up in Harlem called Denny Mo's. So I would take this show on the road, like to all these different locations. And it was awesome. It was great. But the one challenge I had was I wasn't really getting paid. I would put together these shows with all my heart, all my effort, all my time, but I wasn't really getting paid. And I needed to figure out, how do I actually turn my love, my creativity for storytelling and for this work into something that is actually going to make me a little bit of dinero. So in 2012, I decided to apply to TED. And I should mention also that around the same time, I was coaching. I decided to become a coach, and I decided that this is what I really wanted to lean into. I wanted to lean into coaching and working with others on sharing their stories, getting their stories amplified on everything from the moth to different virtual stages, different real stages. So coaching kind of became the way that I decided that I was going to lean into storytelling by being a performer, but also by being a coach. So I applied to TED, and in 2012, I applied, but did not get accepted. In 2013, so actually, this particular email that I just pulled up is from 2012. So obviously it says it's from TED, as you can see, and it says, "Dear Dawn, thank you so much for responding to our worldwide talent search for TED 2013. We received hundreds of fantastic submissions from around the world. Cannot thank you enough for your time." But essentially, the answer was no. The answer was no. I was like, okay, no worries. But I knew that there was something. I knew that there was something that I could do to shift my application or to modify it, to really kind of create that sense that I did belong on the stages of TED. And lo and behold, 1 year later, I applied again. And this time, this was the email that I got. "Dear Dawn, thank you so much for responding to our TED at New York City open call. We received hundreds of fantastic submissions from around the world. Cannot thank you enough for your time and effort. And in bold, we're very excited to let you know that your submission has been accepted for the event on October 8th, 2013. Boom! If you live outside of New York, just a reminder, you're responsible for your own travel. That wasn't important to me. It didn't matter because, as many of you know, I was living in New York City. And this is what started to change everything. Everything for me as a storyteller, as a speaker, and as a coach. So this was me, happy-go-lucky me, October 2013. 7 years ago on the stages of TED at a place called Joe's Pub in New York City. An amazing and awesome venue. And I was sharing a story about my twin brother and I at UCLA and what I learned from him in terms of this idea of special needs and me understanding that I needed to switch my mentality to start to think about special gifts. So this was me on the stages of TED in 2013. And from there, little by little, things started to change, but they started to change rather quickly. So I mentioned to you that I had been working with organizations like The Moth and the Story Studio, but I also wanted to start putting together my own programs because I had done a lot of work in like leadership development, and my master's was focused on international studies. So I really wanted to do something that connected this idea of storytelling and leadership. So I created a business called Fraser's Edge LLC. And one of my very first clients was Google. Google, yes, that Google. And so I was like, okay, this is amazing. This is insane. So I created one of those, Google My Business things where people can actually like submit their own reviews. And this was one of my first reviews. Don's an incredible storyteller and speaker coach. We worked together to train Google Cloud speakers for presentations at industry events and workshops. And the participants gave nothing but great reviews. And this was just like the beginning of so much awesomeness. Many of you may, or if you're new to me, you may not know this story. But not only did I start working with these amazing companies like Spotify and Google and Vox Media and Chanel, all these people who were hiring me directly, but I also started getting calls from different agents and calls from different people like the rapper Common. Now, I honestly was not prepared to work with somebody like Common. If you don't know who he is a Grammy Award winner rapper. He was in the movie Selma. And he calls me up to ask if I would be willing to work with him on a brand new presentation. And I was nervous as all hell. I was like, wait, hold on a second. I just did a TED Talk last year. But I've only been training people and coaching people for the past couple of years. Like, why me? And he's like, I've heard so much about you. I've heard about your passion. I've heard about your work. I'm looking for new talent. I really want to work with you. And so, quick little story. On the night that we linked up, on this particular night, I got so sick because I was so nervous about me meeting and working with Common that I basically like threw up all over his SUV as we were driving back into Brooklyn. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I threw up all over Common's car. And so as you can see from this next text message that I sent him, this was in 2014. For those of you who don't know, his real name is Rashid. So, and so I call him Rash Love. So I said, hey, Rash Love, great job with the speech last night. He had come to New York City to do a presentation at King College. And so I was like, great job with the speech last night. Glad we were able to connect and make that happen. I'll hit up Kristen, his assistant, soon to set up the next steps. And thanks to the Red Rooster, Zara and I loved breaking bread and hanging with you too, him and his assistant. And I said, P.S. So sorry about the car, quote, mess. Hadn't eaten much earlier in the day, and obviously it worked against me. I was totally expecting for this man to be like, look, I was already giving you a shot. Like, I was sure that this was a done deal. But instead, he writes back, peace. It was great to hang with you both. And we're wonderful ladies, and I appreciate your support. Let's make these speeches special because the people are listening. Love. And let me tell you, when I got this text back and I realized that Common was so uncommon that he would allow me to throw up all over his SUV and still work with him, I knew that something magical was going on. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know if it was the TED Talk. I didn't know if it was my path. I didn't know what was going on, but people were giving me shots to actually work with them. And so I started growing and I started building my business bit by bit by bit. Since Common, I've now worked with ton of celebrities, and a lot of them are also on the same mission to do a TED Talk. So today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what are some of the things that I've seen, like the high level things that we need to look for if we're applying to an organization like TED or TEDx. And then how might we be able to shift that into coaching so that I can work with you in the same way that I've worked with Common, that I've worked with Chanel or Google or all these other people. So y'all ready? Y'all ready? Let's do this. Let's jump in. All right. So first off, a couple of principles that are must know principles if you are trying to translate your story into a speech or your story into an idea. But basically, every single great presentation, every single presentation is going to have a story. Every single one of them. Now I need to come onto the screen. I need to come onto the screen to reiterate this point for you, that the story is going to be the core of so much of what you do, say, believe, and how you're going to get others to respond to you, to persuade, to engage, right? So let's talk a little bit more about this. So first off, I want to just go into really quickly high level stuff here. What are the role of stories? The role of stories are, these are the three main roles that I see of stories. That they have a purpose to show what you stand for. So, instead of saying that I value equality, a story can show you why. It gives purpose. It shows what you stand for. It provides direction, and it demonstrates our values in a way that shows, as opposed to just tells. So stories have a purpose. They can also be used to build relationships. When we're looking at the world today, so many people are interested in how do I actually use my story to build relationships across racial lines, gender lines, political lines, or romantic lines, right? You tell a story. So it shows the potential of collaboration. It shows where your values intersect, and it shows how you can build a relationship through your values, communicating your values. And third, definitely very important, is stories show you the ability for a vision, for change. It shows you an opportunity. Like today, we might not be there, but because we believe in these values or believe in something bigger than ourselves, there's a possibility of something new. So if you take this within context, a story can get to the heart of people. And what we want to start to do as we're thinking about expanding our stories is we want to connect the heart, the head, and as one of my very close friends said recently, we also want to connect the gut. So let's go a little bit deeper into this. So a couple of storytelling fundamentals that I think are really critical, regardless of like what you're doing, how you're doing it, or what you're planning on, or what platform you're planning on using for your stories. The first thing that you want to think about is to hone in on a scene. Have you ever heard somebody talk and they're just kind of like talking like, very rhetorically, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times, right? That's not a scene. When we're talking about scenes, we're talking about those moments that you can almost feel them happening in slow motion. So a fundamental of a story is to hone in on scenes and to use scenes as much as possible in your storytelling. So choose moments that can be shared and expressed almost as if in slow motion. That's really going to give people that feeling that they were there with you, there with you. So regardless of how much real estate you have in terms of time, you want to think as much as possible, spend your real estate on scenes. Those moments that are like almost going in slow motion. Okay. Now, once we have a scene, we start to see a why. So once we start to see like what's going on in any particular moment, we now start to see like, why is this moment important? Which leads us organically and naturally into this idea of stakes. So stakes are basically like, what is it that you wanted in this particular moment? What could be gained or lost if you did not get what you wanted out of the scenario, So for example, take the scene like, I'd always been really great at producing podcasts. So I applied for a podcasting job and I got the job. Right. And then after I got the job, I told my boss I was really great and I wanted a raise. And my boss gave me a raise. It's like, great, whatever. Right. That is not a story because there's no tension. There's nothing at stake. If you think that you're a really good producer, you apply to the job, you don't get the job, and you have to figure out a way to kind of keep on pitching and keep on doing it. And then you finally get the job and you get the job, but then your boss is like, nah, I ain't gonna give you no promotion, son. Right? We start to see what's at stake. We start to see what the protagonist, you as a storyteller, what you want. So we have to first hone in on the scene to understand what's at stake for the storyteller. And then as we get to the end of the storyteller, the end of the story, we have a bit of reflection. I like to call this the Oprah Winfrey aha moment. When, for those of you who follow a lot of moth stories, you may have heard this as being like, and then I realized the right? So it's the moral of the story. It's the reflection, the significance, what you learned, what it means to you, what it means to your community, or what it means in terms of like your larger ideas. Okay. So regardless of anything, keep these fundamentals in mind as you're crafting your stories. Now, there's always a structure. And I know I'm going pretty fast because actually a lot of this material I've covered in the past 10 weeks. So if you're interested in like learning more and to just have me like slow it down, don't slow it down. I'll show you like where to go to learn all of this stuff in a lot more detail. But narrative arc is the structure, one of the structures that you really need to understand to make sense of your story. So we have a beginning, how life started off. We have an inciting incident, and then one day something happens that sets the rest of the story into motion. We have the raising of the stakes. And if we go back to this idea that we need to know the why behind any person's motivation, the raising of the stakes is when we start to see the crisis of the story. Like, what does this protagonist want? And they're not getting what they want. So they try something else and they're still not getting what they want. All right. Every movie, every book, every podcast that's in narrative form has this kind of structure where the raising of the stakes, where the protagonist is not getting what they want until finally there's like something happens where like the energy of the story is about to shift. And that's usually a climax. It's like a breaking point, or it's a release, which naturally leads us into our resolution. Okay. So this is one structure that makes a lot of sense for a lot of stories, but it's not the only structure, but it is one that I think that everybody should know and understand in order to make sense of how stories really work, why we're rooting for protagonists, and how it works in terms of us understanding why they're sharing the story in the first place. So we need to shift now in order to think about, for those of you who are interested in becoming paid speakers, for those of you interested in becoming paid podcasters, for those of you who are interested in landing on virtual stages or real stages of TED or TEDx, we need to now translate a story into an idea, an idea worth spreading. So what makes a good idea for a TED or TEDx talk? Well, we have to look at the different observations that we're drawing from our story or from these moments, and then we have to think about, what does it mean? What is the idea? So one of the exercises that I take people through, and many of you who are watching this on either now live or on replay, were possibly part of our session last week for the mini summit, where we actually had a chance to sit down and kind of grapple with your ideas. And I was really challenging a lot of you to get into the nitty-gritty of what the idea is, not the story, because the tendency a lot of times is when we're pitching is to share the story. What we need to do is to pitch the idea. Okay? We need to pitch the idea, not the story. They're going to go hand in hand, as you'll see. But when we leaning into the idea, we need to see, is this something new? Is this something surprising? Am I challenging a belief? Am I seeing something in a new light? what exactly is the idea? The idea needs to be fine-tuned a little bit more. So I'm going to go through like a quick little summary of like how to figure out what your ideas are and how to source them. So personal stories, as I mentioned, what stories have shaped you? What stories do other people find interesting? Which stories do people find compelling or unique, and why? So you can always go into your stories to find ideas. Your professional experience. Your professional experience is a great starting point to figure out what are some things that you know or things that you've done or accomplished that have made you proud, and what ideas may have come from others in your industry or others who are outside of your industry who don't know about this, but that it might be a really interesting idea to share with the world. Vision. Vision is key in understanding, like, okay, like if I could go back 10 years, 20 years and talk to my younger self, what advice or what insights would I give my younger self or the younger version or my nephew or my niece? What would I share with them, and how might that translate into an idea? Emotions. Emotions are great to tap into, not only for story, but also to understand, like, why was it that I got so upset over X, Y, and Z? Or why is it that I was so surprised over X, Y, and Z, or intrigued? If we think about those moments and if we think about the emotional spectrum of human emotions, there are times when we may be caught off guard in a good or bad way, surprised, um, and it may be compelled us to take action. But emotions drive human behavior, and they also drive ideas. So what are those times when you felt really emotional, and what does that mean in terms of an idea? Perspective. Um, what topic or issue have you taken a stance on? And then maybe you took a stance on it and later reversed your stance. Sorry, had to make sure that this little pup over here was quiet. But one of the most interesting things I saw just recently, and I'm not going to get political on y'all, but I did see on 60 Minutes the other day a group of Republicans who are so adamant about the fact that their party, they feel the party has gone so far out of context that they're now reversing what they're saying about standing up for the party, but actually standing up for a candidate. So give me one quick second, please. Just gonna throw some nuggets at the dog so she's quiet. Okay, great. And then 6 is expertise. What are you personally or professionally known for? What do people ask you about on a regular basis? This kind of goes back to that idea of professional experience, that we know something that might be of interest to people who know nothing about this topic. The last 3 are number 7, values. What is something that you value? And when was what value possibly challenged by others? How did you respond? It's a great idea to start to lean into your values, and understanding when those are challenged is when we most have to stand up and represent our ideologies, right? Curiosities. Tell us about a time when somebody responded to you like, that's interesting. Or maybe you were the one who responded that way. And then Yoda. So when was the time that you were able to help guide somebody else, and how were you able to help them? So these are all different ways to source ideas. Now, this is all very rhetorical, kind of like big. Part of the coaching program that I'm going to be introducing to you today is a way for us to still brainstorm, and to brainstorm in a very loving, supportive community, but then to be able to hone in on just one. Hone in on one idea that we're going to use for your TED or your TEDx talk, that we're going to use as you're building out your speaking career. Like, just what are those main ideas? What is that core content? So a lot of people worry that they need to be an expert in the topic. And I know last week when I spoke with Sasha from TED, I asked her specifically, like, do I need to be an expert in my topic in order to be ready to speak at TED? And the answer is no. The answer, thank God, is no. you need to be an expert in your field. Like you need to know something about your field, either through a lived experience or from a professional experience or something, but you don't need to be the expert. You just need to be a couple of steps ahead of where your audience might be. So as you start to think about your ideas, make sure you check your facts, use reliable sources, consult with others. And then, my challenge to you is to be able to write down your idea in 1 or 2 sentences. Now, if you were on the Ideas That Ignite mini summit last week, Felicia Jones, who's done 2 TEDx talks, mentioned that in her applications and in her coaching, she looks for expressing the idea in 6 words or less. Woo! 6 words. That's even less than a sentence or 2. But that is part of the goal. So I want to present to you a couple of case studies of people that I've worked with over the past couple of years, and a couple of people I've worked with over the years, and what their results were after doing TED or TEDx. Oops. Let's see here. Can I get my slide to go forward? Okay, great. So the first person that I wanted to share with you as a case study is Jackie Cruz. Some of you might know her as Flaca in the show Orange is the New Black. Quiet. So Jackie came to me with a little bit of conundrum. She was starting to get some acknowledgement as a celebrity for her roles in Orange is the New Black. And she was being approached by a speaking agent who wanted to be able to get her on to, this college circuit and to get her onto TEDx. But her agent was like, Dawn, she does not know how to share her story or how to relate it into an experience. So I worked with Jackie on really finding her voice. And the amazing thing, and I think that what happens for a lot of people, is we have these experiences that we don't necessarily know how to translate into an idea. In Jackie's case, she had been through a pretty horrific car accident where she lost access to her limbs and to her, just really difficult. She had to learn how to walk. I believe she was in a coma for a couple of days. And the interesting thing about Jackie's story was that she learned how to deal with adversity because she just didn't have that infrastructure, that she needed. Because at the time she was going between the Dominican Republic, the United States. And so we found a way to hone in to Jackie's story, but then to turn that into an idea. Lo and behold, when she landed her TEDx gig, this thing took off. And her agents were so happy with what she was able to do and how she was able to spin and translate her experience into an idea that now Jackie's traveling the world. She's now expanded into also her singing career and her speaking career. But Jackie Cruz was probably one of the people who I most talk about in my own training programs because of how far she came. One of the second people that I'd like to talk about is Jeff Rosenblum. Jeff Rosenblum is the CEO of an organization, a business in New York City that deals specifically with marketing. And he wanted to know, can advertising save the world? Right? It's kind of a large notion. Can advertising save the world? Like Patagonia. Could something like Patagonia and, not working on certain days and shutting down their operations and advertising, to go green, could this help save the world? After Jeff did his TEDx talk, he was able to leverage this into one of the most recognizable brands, his particular organization, Questus, his advertising agency. They received year after year after year the advertising agency of award for New York City. And I'm not saying it's just because of the TEDx talk, but what I'm trying to say is that by landing a TEDx talk, you can leverage whatever it is that you're doing. If you're in business, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're an artist, so much of what you can do can be leveraged if you work and do a TEDx talk. And so what I found was interesting was a couple of years ago, I had a course called Story to Speech to Sale. Story to Speech to Sale. I still have this course, and some of the people who are part of this community, the Ideas That Ignite community, have gone through this program. This is Casey Bergeland. What was interesting to me was when Casey signed up for Story to Speech, her main goal was to do a TEDx talk. And so I said, okay, great, let's lean into this process. And sure enough, after about a couple of months, about 6 months of working together, Casey was able to land a TEDx gig in her hometown of Calgary, Canada. So I went and I had a chance to actually check out her TEDx talk, and it was phenomenal. Now Casey is doing her own programs in India, around the world. Of course, now in the time of COVID, things are a little bit different. But Casey's TEDx talk made her one of the go-to experts in her industry. And that's when I started seeing not only the power of the TEDx talk, but the power of some of the programs I was putting together. Because the Story to Speech to Sale program was intended initially for people to be able to understand how to take a story, turn that into a speech, and take that speech and land and turn it into either a platform for you to be able to go and sell to colleges, sell to universities, get on podcasts and turn that into a lucrative business. Or in the case of Casey, a TEDx gig. And so I realized what I wanted to do was to shift so that those people who just wanted to focus on TEDx or TED could do that, in addition to understanding some of the business models and some of the marketing models that can land some of the most lucrative paid gigs out there. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is what led me to creating the 10 weeks of the Ideas That Ignite storytelling tips, and now the course that we're starting to lean into. Y'all feeling me? Y'all feeling me on this? So let's see here. So the question is why now? Why do we want to focus on this now? Past year has been hectic, but we've seen that representation matters. We've seen, do you guys remember that this little boy, when he met President Barack Obama and he was touching his hair and he was like, oh my gosh, you have hair like me, right? Seeing people of color, seeing women, seeing leaders in different capacities of different hues, of different backgrounds, different nationalities, it matters because we are the world. We are the world, and we are the ones that were drawn to this work. Now is the time to actually get out there because we need to see more people of color, more women, more diverse voices on stages around the world. And another thing is timing. Now, I know that for the past 6 months, as of, if you're watching this on replay anytime after October 2020, then my math might be a little bit off. But as of October 2020, we've been in quarantine or sheltering or whatever you want to call it for about 6 months. About 6 months because of the coronavirus. Now, ironically, at the beginning of the coronavirus, when everything was just starting to almost unravel, I was approached by the same gentleman whose class I took in 2010, Kevin Allison. And he asked me if I wanted to do a story for a show called Risk. So I said, yeah, of course, I'd love to. So I did a show. I did a story for Risk. And the New York Times was present because they were trying to figure out, our producers, our comedians, our people who are storytellers, are they still actually making income? Are they able to live off this? And oddly enough, the answer was yes. So this is you can't really read the headline on this, but it says, can you make money in live comedy right now? Some producers say yes. So even though we are all in sometimes our bubbles, our houses, not going very far, now is the time to start preparing, because as we go into the end of 2020 and the beginning of 2021, more things are going to start to open up, more opportunities. And this is going to be our new reality. A lot of virtual stages, a lot of real stages, But now is the time to understand and utilize your stories in a way that can amplify your platform in any way that you see interesting, viable, or feasible. So I want to switch gears just a tad into understanding how I can help. How I can help y'all. Y'all ready for this? So, if you've ever dreamt of giving a TED or TEDx talk, today I want you to stop dreaming and let's start manifesting. Stop dreaming, let's start manifesting. So as of today, I'm so excited to introduce to you the Ideas That Ignite Mastermind, the 9-week group coaching program that takes you from who dat to the go-to guru in your industry. So this mastermind is going to be a live, interactive virtual coaching program, training and mentorship program that focuses on tutorials, coaching, and a dedicated community. I'm going to show you where you can find all this information in just a bit. So in case you're trying to read a lot of the text, don't worry about it because you'll be able to go back to that in just a moment. Okay. So I want you to imagine if you could instantly become recognized as an expert in your field. If you could get hired consistently for high paid speaking gigs. If you could effortlessly acquire more clients for your business. If you could impact millions with your story. Okay. Thank you. If you could be featured in top media outlets, if you could land a 6-figure book deal and more. Imagine, because this, ladies and gentlemen, can be your reality. Now, what's included? What's included in this mastermind? I'm going to break down all these topics in just a moment, but basically what's included are first and foremost training modules. So if you've been on any of my story to speech training programs in the past 10 weeks, those will all be downloadable modules. Hot seats. Hot seats are the opportunity for you to get that one-on-one dedicated time, community support, and some feedback on a story or a topic of your choice. So the hot seats are really an opportunity for you to let us know, like, how can we support you? Do you want to share a story? Do you want to share an idea? Do you want to brainstorm how you can actually contact colleges and universities and put together a platform? It's all you. That is what the hot seats are about. So every single week during the 9 weeks, we'll have at least one person in a hot seat. In the program, you get one-on-one coaching session with yours truly, right? And as you know, I have been working with people from around the world for about 10 years. So you get direct assistance from me on your idea or your story, whatever you might need, but one-on-one coaching session. Some sample applications, so we can review exactly what's worked, what hasn't worked for TED and TEDx, including one of my own. So technically a couple more applications than just a couple sample applications, 3 or 4. Open submissions in terms of a list of TED and TEDx events currently seeking speakers. So if you just wanted to go, boom, just hit up 10 of them all at the same time, got you covered. And last but not least, of course, a supportive community, right? Diverse virtual community dedicated to long-term success. Y'all ready to break this down? Let's do this. All right. So I'm going to take myself off of the screen for just a quick second so you can see this a little bit better. Okay, great. So the first thing that is up in terms of these downloadable training modules. So this is how it's broken down in terms of just the downloadable modules. Weeks 1 and 2, we talk about setting your foundation. So we really got to fine tune your why, because if we don't have a very compelling why, you're not going to be in this for for the long term. We need a compelling why. We need to get really clear on your idea, and we need to get really clear on your vision. What are you planning to do with this talk, or these talks, or these ideas? And how is this program best going to help suit you? If I'm very clear about your goals, I know which way to lead you. Think about me as like your GPS, right? You're the driver, I'm the GPS. I'm telling you which way to turn, when you got to make a U-turn, when you gotta go deep, right? So we got to have a solid foundation those first 2 weeks. Weeks 3 and 4, we go into storytelling and speech best practices. So how do you find stories, right? How do you distill the significance? Because the story isn't about what happened, the series of events. The story is about the significance and what it means to you. And then we have to understand about the formats. So a little bit earlier, I talked a little bit about narrative arc, which is one format. But if you have a call to action, or if you have a story of vision, you might need a different format. So what is the best format that's going to work for you as you are putting together your idea? Week 5 and 7, so week 6 is Thanksgiving break. So week 5 and 7 is looking at all of the different presentation aspects that we need to cover in order for you to feel comfortable in your own skin as you're presenting. So visuals, how do you explain different things? And of course, persuasion. Because a lot of people already have their own ideas about certain topics that you might be talking about. And you might be interested in trying to persuade them otherwise. How do we do that? As I mentioned, week 6 is Thanksgiving break. Week 8 and 9 is when we're looking at the path forward. Now, if you were with me last week, when we had Chloe Shasha from TED with us, you may have heard her say that the idea search is coming up. The idea search is coming up. Keep in mind, the idea search is the exact same process that I went through in order to get on the stages of TED at New York City. I had no idea that it was actually coming up. And when she mentioned that, I was so amped, because as soon as it gets on our radar, whenever it's launched within the next month or so, this program is going to have you ready to apply with a stellar application, with your videos and anything else that you need. And keep in mind, in my own journey, 1 year I applied, it took another year before I actually got on stage. But at least with this foundation, you're going to have all the tools necessary to make your TED or TEDx dreams come true, or your speaking dreams come true, okay? And then a bonus module is going to be the business models and living your purpose. So now that you have the TEDx talk, or now that you have the TED talk, what do you do with it? How do you get it out in the world? How do you translate that into a coaching business? How do you translate that into your podcast? How do you translate that into selling your books, right? So we have to understand as creatives, what are the different business models that we can use in order to take our stories and amplify them and make an amazing living off of them. Y'all feeling me? If y'all feeling me, put a thumbs up or a hell yeah in the chat box. Give me a hell yeah. Give me a more fire. More fire. Yes. All right. So far we've covered the training modules. Next up, a hot seat. Hot seat. Look at how hot the seat is, right? So in addition to the modules, every member will have at least one hot seat opportunity to receive feedback on a select aspect of their speaking journey. So as I mentioned, you can share a story, a presentation, you can brainstorm, you can poll the community about a certain topic. Anything that you want to do, you have the opportunity when you are in the hot seat. And everybody is guaranteed at least one hot seat during the course of the 9 weeks. Okay? Coaching. Now, this was one of my coaching programs from earlier this summer. A group of about 12 or 13 fellows who are all focused on health access, health equity, and they're all from the Asian diaspora. So Asian Pacific Islanders, Native Hawaiians were also considered in part of this group. Now, this is actually a larger group considering some of the programs I typically put together, which are, 5, 10. So everybody will be in some type of group format where we can cheer each other on, or we can share stories with one another. And depending on how many people we sign up, will depend on how the groups are broken up or not. But each Ideas Ignite Mastermind has its own little group. You're going to have a group of at least Fab 5. And from those Fab 5, you'll be working together on fine-tuning your ideas, sharing your stories, sharing your content. And of course, yours truly will have your back 100% of the way. So this particular picture was from our final share with the Health Rising Fellows not too long ago, which was just an amazing event. I mean, some of these people are just doing amazing things. One person was invited to speak at the DMC. Just a lot of stellar work that came out from this particular group. As I mentioned earlier, we'll be looking at applications. So I tried to show some of you all my application in one of the last live streams. It didn't really work because there's so much text and not enough time to really get into the nitty-gritty of it. So we're going to spend a lot of time just on applications that worked. Applications in terms of the written text, applications in terms of the videos. So some of you may remember or may have seen Zach Ibrahim, not his real name, and his 1-minute pitch that ended up being a TED sensation, a TED book. And some of you may have seen a little bit of my own proposal. But as part of the program, we get a lot more detail. We get into the nitty-gritty of applications that have worked and how we can format them in a way that seems to really appeal to admissions committees. We'll have a resource hub. The resource hub is just like a space where you can go for additional information, tips and tricks about speaking on TED, how to land paid speaking gigs, which is a webinar, the Art of Storytelling and Leadership Workbook, which, as a matter of fact, now that I'm mentioning it, is right here. Oops, I forgot my screen is not up. Ha, funny. Anyways, Art of Storytelling and Leadership Workbook. It's an opportunity for you to understand and read some of my favorite prompts and to get a sense of what are the different structures and a couple of pro tips. Podcast interviews. So that's all part of the resource hub. And of course, upcoming opportunities. So over here on the right, this is something that I shared with my Story to Speech to Sale program back in 2017. And I'm assuming that it's going to look exactly like this or something very similar to this when Chloe and the team from TED open up the idea search coming up for 2020. So it'll say something like open now, audition for TED 2021. And part of my goal is to keep all this stuff on your radar. Keep it all on your radar so that when you are ready to go, you are ready to go. You feel me? All right. I was talking a lot about TEDx Harlem last week. And I just think that the timing of this is probably going to be really good, especially because I know a lot of you are in New York City and Harlem is a cultural capital for so many people. I just think that TEDx Harlem might be a good starting point for that day going forward, like May 2021 going forward in terms of landing a landing a TEDx or TED or TEDx gig, or landing a paid speaking opportunities. And last but not least, we'll have our own private engaged community on Facebook. So these are some of the testimonials and some of the things that came in from the Story to Speech program. This one over here is from Tracy Segura, mentioning how her dream was to take her storytelling and start teaching it, teaching a 6-week class. And so now she's doing it, but as she mentions here, she's beyond excited because she wanted to get corporate gigs. So she negotiated a fee of $3,000 for a 6-week course, 2 hours each, translates to $250 an hour for doing something I love beyond measure. Boom, a win. Shannon Kaysen, I'm about to talk about Shannon a little bit more in just a moment, but Shannon was part of our our course as well. And Shannon went on to land a 6-figure podcasting deal. So y'all feeling me? Y'all feeling me? Like, this is all within reach. So what is the investment and what is the value? So lifetime access to all the modules, to all the training, $4,500. Okay, $4,500 for all of the material that you'll have lifetime access to. One coaching call with me is typically $1,200. That's actually a little bit on the low end because my prices have gone up quite a bit over the past couple of years. Let me go back to see y'all on screen because I want to talk with y'all. I want to speak with y'all. All right. Oh, hello, Devin. Hello, Samantina. Yes. What is up? What is up? Just now seeing that y'all are here. So glad to have y'all here. All right, cool. So the 9 weekly group calls and hot seats, those are valued at about $4,500. Group calls are typically when people start to see themselves in other people, they start to understand what's happening. The value of that is about $4,500. The list of about 10 TEDx events looking for speakers is about $800. And that's something that will have not just the website. We'll have the website, we'll have the application link, and we'll have when the deadline is coming up. So that is going to be a value of about $800. 3 TEDx sample applications, value of about $200, $250. So the total program value of everything that we've been putting together is about $11,550. But you know I'm not going to do that, y'all. You know I'm not going to charge $11,000 for this program. What you're getting with this program is a total program investment of $1,750, or 3 installments over the 9 weeks of $650. So it's about $650 a month for October, November, and then December. So $650, or if you want to do it all and at one time and save a couple, about $200 or so, you can do the total program investment of $1,750. Y'all ready? Y'all ready to do this? Let's do this, y'all. You know what? I forgot to include, oh well, it's okay. But I forgot to include some of the testimonials from different people that I've worked with. But I will be able to show you that on the Ideas That Ignite page. The Ideas That Ignite page, ladies and gentlemen, is now officially live with this information. All this information that I just talked about is now officially live. So if you go to www.ideasthatIgnite.co, you'll be able to get a full rundown of everything that's included in this program, what it's all about, what we're standing for, and I am so amped. So here's what you can expect. Here's what you can expect. Let me just come back to the screen for a quick second. Come back to the screen. All right, cool. So this is what you can expect. Once you go through and do the checkout process, I'm all about the community. What are the best times for the community? What are the best dates for the community? In other words, once you sign up, you'll receive a link from yours truly asking you, okay, great, you're all signed up. Let's do this. What's going to be the best date for you to attend? Now, keep in mind, there's 2 main things here that are live. The first is going to be me training and breaking down the videos, so the different modules, the different training modules, right? That's going to be like one component. The second component is going to be the group, like when is the group going to meet, on which days, and then figuring out like who's going to be in the hot seat over the course of the 9 weeks. So once you sign up, you'll receive a link and it'll have like all the different date and time options for any 1 week. Once we decide as a group, like for example, I spoke with Christina already. Christina already mentioned Thursdays at 1 are not going to be great for her and her son, just because of like timing with a couple of different things. So awesome. Now that I already know that time is already off. off the books. Okay. So what I want to know is, when are the best times for you? Keeping in mind that we have an international audience, keeping in mind that I'm in California, some people are in New York City, other people are in England or wherever they may be. So you'll receive a link. What are the best times? We'll decide as a group when we're going to meet, what the best times are for the group to meet. And then we start scheduling. When are you going to do your one-on-ones? When are you going to link up with me? And what is your idea? Okay. So I'm just going to pull up a couple of things for you on my screen. Okay, here we go. Awesome. I want to show you basically, what does this look like in terms of the modules? What does this look like in terms of the program? I just want to share with you. I'm going to share with you a few things here. Share screen. Let me just double check this. Oops, nope, wrong one. Actually, give me 1 second. That was not the right tab. Ah, here we go. Okay, here we go. So once all of the program is actually recorded, it's going to look something like this. So it will, at the top, we'll have a little bit more information about, this is the story to speech to sale program. So this is not the same program that we're talking about now, but this will give you a good sense of like how this thing looks on the back end. So once you're actually enrolled in the course, the trainings that I'm going to be doing will all be uploaded and will look like this. So if I'm previewing as a logged in user, you'll be able to go to the course. And each one of these little arrows is essentially a video. So if you were interested in the difference between core and supporting ideas, you click on it, a little video, it'll pop up. You click the little button there, and there you go. Now, a lot of these are going to be actual videos with me actually talking, in addition to slides, but each one of these will be brought to life. Each one of these weeks and each one of these modules will be brought to life each week as we develop the program. So that is what is going to be recorded live. Now, the reason why I think it's awesome that you all have this opportunity to jump on this now is because all of the training I'm going to be doing is going to be live. So if you have any questions, if anything comes up, this is all going to be the opportunity for you to be able to jump in, let me know. We can rework it, we can fine tune it. But I want this community to be as engaged as possible as I start to build out this brand new program for you all, okay? So that's the first thing that I wanted to share with y'all. And the second thing that I wanted to share with y'all is the actual Ideas That Ignite page. So I'm gonna go to Ideas That Ignite, ideasthatIgnite.co, because there is one other thing that I want to show you that is still a little bit of a work in progress. It's a very, very small thing, but necessary to acknowledge. Okay, there we go. So let's go to share the screen again. And there we go. Okay, so on ideas.ignite.co, this is a full landing page of all information that I just talked about. So that's an awesome shot from Ted. This is a little bit more about what is the 9-week VIP Mastermind. Uncover your unique ideas, craft them to signature talk, leverage your platform to book paid speaking gigs. Yes. But a little bit more about what this is all about. Can I get a heck yeah? A little bit more about who I am. Imagine, ladies and gentlemen. I want you to be able to imagine what this can do for you. What this can do for you. Of course, all the information in terms of what's included. The training curriculum, and as I mentioned, like this would all be going into that back end of that, those downloadable modules. We're building those out together. More information about the hot seat. A little more about me, who I am as your coach. A couple of testimonials. This is what I was looking for earlier, actually. A couple of testimonials from different people I've worked with recently, including Maya, Samira. Samira was the one I was talking about who was invited to speak at TEDx. And some of you may remember Shannon. Shannon Case was with us last week as part of the Ideas at Night Summit. And he's just been over the moon in terms of being able to find and launch his podcast, and now working with other business professionals to land a 6-figure deal with new clients. This has a value investment, the next steps about what to expect once you complete it. And the reason why I brought this up is because if you scroll all the way, it takes you a minute, but if you scroll all the way to the bottom, this is where you can place your order now. Now you'll see that there is, I don't yet have the tab for excuse me, for the 3-part payment plan. That is going to be active in about an hour. So if you are interested in the payment plan, just just go ahead and send me a DM or send me a note, and I'll be able to make sure that you get that correct information. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and stop that. Awesome. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is what we are going to be leaning into for the next 9 weeks in the Ideas That Ignite Mastermind. Can I get a fire? Can I get some fire up in here? Oops, my dog just woke back up. Get a little bit of water. Whew, calm myself down. All right, so I'd love to know if there's any questions. Putting together like any type of frequently asked questions, because I know that some of you all may be interested or may be confused about a couple of different things, or maybe you're not confused about anything. Any questions? Thank you. Yes. More fire. More fire. Yes. Sweet. So, any questions? I'm going to be putting together like a frequently asked questions tab as part of the landing page. And I'm curious to know, like, what questions do y'all have out there, if anything? Okay, let's see here. Do you send recommendations for your students? Do I send recommendations? In other words, do I provide recommendations for you to go and do other things? Clarify a little bit more for me what you mean by that, Samantina. I believe. Okay. Like, so do I send recommendations for like TED or Ted Harlem? So I would be more than willing to write a recommendation or a referral. One of the things, though, that Chloe mentioned last week, who was the speaker curator from TED, is that it doesn't really matter if the recommendation is coming from yourself or if it's coming from somebody who is, a colleague or in the industry. One of the things that she did recommend for sure is like not to try and bombard the application committee with a whole bunch of recommendations. But actually, it's rather easy to also nominate yourself. Now, if you want me to recommend you, I would be more than happy to recommend for you. But what I will do, Samantina, is I look at basically like what is your portfolio or what is your talk about, and one of the things that we're going to be looking at are like which TED or TEDx events are most suited or are most likely to bring you on board. So, for example, if you have like a talk about tech, for example, then I might start looking at like TEDx here in the Bay Area, or if you are environmentalist, TEDx in Berkeley, right? If you're doing a lot of cultural stuff, maybe TEDx Baton Rouge or TEDx Louisiana, TEDx New York or Harlem. Um, if you're looking at more like things around healing and inner peace or cultural diversity, we might look at like some of the bigger cities like TEDx Chicago, um, TEDx Los Angeles. So part of my goal is to figure out like what is your talk about or what's your idea, and then to really figure out where you're going to be able to maximize your potential for success. Okay. So let's see here. So Devin is asking, oops, wrong one. Can you recommend us for TED or other organizations? Yeah, absolutely. Well, absolutely. Well, but like, as I mentioned, um, it's may not necessarily be essential, but absolutely. Like if there's a space, and a lot of times there is a little space on the application, like did somebody refer you? And I would be more than happy to have my name be a part of that application process, because the people from TED some of them do know who I am. So I would be more than happy to, you know, help out in any particular way that will amplify your application and make it a little bit like more, um, more kind of like fine tuned, like like give that the extra little umph to it, right? Cool. So Poonam says, Poonam, hi Poonam. I'm late coming in. When is the deadline to register? Okay, great question. Great question. So technically, next week is going to be kicking off the program, but we're not going to be kicking it off most likely until Thursday. So let me just double check this calendar here. So the deadline will be next week on Wednesday. Let me just double check this. So the 21st, Poonam, will be your last day. I've been kind of advertising this as, sign up by the 19th, but that's mostly for me to kind of make sure I have all my ducks in a row, that I can make sure that your group of your Fab Five are kind of like all kind of put together. So I've been encouraging people to sign up by the 19th, but technically, the first training and coaching stuff is not going to happen until the 22nd. So you have until the 21st to register. Okay, great question. Devin, it looks like you're having some issues with your keyboard. Your keyboard is messing up. All right. Would you guys like to come backstage? Do you guys want to come backstage and just kind of like talk things through? Let me find the link in case you are. If not, no worries, no pressure. But let me find the correct link for you all in case. Copy that. Copy, and paste. Give me a quick second here to jump over to Facebook. Just going to drop you all into the comments here. Let's see here. Where do I find y'all? Okay, here we go. Okay, great. So in case anybody would like to join backstage, ask any type of questions, I just dropped the link for y'all in the comment section. Okay, cool. So let's see. Any other questions? Any other questions? Do you all like the 1 o'clock time frame? 1 o'clock Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. Does that typically work for people? Is there another day that you really like that might potentially work better? I'm all about community. So if something is a better day or seems like a better hour, you know, weekends, do you all want to do weekends? I'm totally flexible. Totally flexible. Any other questions? Any other questions? I'm gonna take a quick sip of water over here. Whew, I've had like one of those days where I'm actually coaching and teaching with the Moth this week, and it's one of our global programs. So a bunch of people from Kenya, let's see, Kenya, Uganda, Nigeria. A lot of people from Nigeria. So all that to say that I started coaching at 5:30 this morning. 5:30. So I'm a little bit doo-doo. But yeah, I'm a little bit out of it. But I'm excited, amped. Here we go. Samantina, how many one-on-ones do we get? So with me, you'll have one one-on-one, okay? And then from there, what you can do is you can either do your one-on-one prior to doing your hot seat. So say, for example, if you're working on your idea, what you can do is you can either do your hot seat first and then try out your idea and then fine tune it with me. Or you can start off with me and like kind of like get like a sense of like where you want to do, like how you want to get into your idea, and then put it into the group. So you'll get one one-on-one with me. And also I totally forgot to mention that I'm also going to be bringing in, like the summit, I'm going to be bringing in guest speakers, presenters, people who are going to like basically set you up on the right path. So when I put together the summit, for example, there's questions about like social media. So I made sure to find the best person I knew to do social media to bring her on board. I know a lot of people were interested in podcasting and so that's why I brought in Shannon and like his success story. So in addition to the training, in addition to time one-on-one with me, we'll also have some time with other experts in the field. We're going to be coming and breaking some stuff down, breaking it down, right? So, yeah. So Samantina with me, it's at least one, and then I'll be on all of the group sessions, the 9 weeks worth of group sessions. So it's not necessarily one-on-one, but it will be with me in a small group. Okay, great question. Yes. So Samantina you mentioned that we would have access to I Find You Close. Is that still part of the package? Yes. So here's what we're going to be doing. For I Find You Close, Felicia has a program. She has a couple of different programs, right? One of them is a program where she is feeding you different paid speaking gig opportunities each month, right? But what we're also going to be doing is the two of us are putting together like another little package deal that's going to look at like, okay, you can get some paid gigs, but where can you go that that might be better for if you're selling something on the back end, in other words, right? So I think I may have mentioned to you like last week that I spoke at the Northside Festival, which was in Brooklyn. which was not a paid event, specifically knowing that there were people in the audience who were going to hire me, which is how I got my gig with Chanel. Another one, for example, is the Future of Storytelling, FOST, FOST. It's another amazing event where they're always sourcing speakers, but they may not necessarily pay speakers. But it's another one of those events where people who are industry leaders, people who can pay you, are going to be in that room. So essentially, Samantina, it's a yes and a no. If you want to pay for just I Find You Close for those monthly recurring opportunities, that's an opportunity. I will, at the end of this program, probably have like the coupon code if you just want to just do that particular training with Felicia, which is still also being worked out. But I also want to be able to expand into finding the opportunities that are going to like lead to long-term clients. So that is something that we're still working out, and I'll be presenting that to you all in the program. Okay. Yes. Yeah, she's an awesome sister, isn't she? She's just like an amazing woman. But yeah, she and I will be working in partnership because there are so many opportunities, especially right now with the virtual stages, that that people are starting to find talent through these virtual stages. So, for example, last week, if you were part of the session with Chloe, she mentioned, for example, that she goes and she seeks out speakers at like South by Southwest or Aspen New Ideas Festival, right? So none of these opportunities pay. I don't believe that South by Southwest pays you. TEDx does not pay you. So basically what I'm doing with Felicia is I'm finding those opportunities that might be even better opportunities for you to actually get out there and practice a lot. Another thing that I want you to think about is the Rotary Club. Do you know about Rotary? Rotary clubs essentially are around the world, and they're clubs of business professionals, men and women, who are basically interested in trying to make a difference in their community. Polio eradication, I think, was like one of their big campaigns for many, many years. Intercultural, community, that kind of stuff. So anyways, Rotary clubs are all over the United States, and they are always looking for speakers. So one of the things that I'm looking at with Felicia is, where are the Rotary clubs in your area, and who could you potentially present to kind of get to that practice, so that you actually have some weight behind you, or maybe you're utilizing it to get a video or to get a reel, or maybe you're utilizing it to get a testimonial so that you can show that you've spoken at a bunch of different places. Whatever that might be, there's a couple different strategies that we need to like look at in terms of actually making sure that you're speaking on enough platforms to prove that you are enough of an expert in your field to be accepted at these gigs, right? So it's always awesome. It's always awesome to be to get the paid speaking gigs, But I also want to be able to balance out some of the expectations, especially now, because some of the paid gigs have started to dwindle just a tad. We're starting to build back up. So it's an interesting time in the speaking industry, but there's definitely a lot of opportunities. So great question. Let's see. Any other questions? So as I mentioned before, the program is going to begin more or less the week of the 19th. But technically, that's going to be like the 22nd and going till December 19th. So we'll have about 9 weeks together. We'll be taking that week off, 6th week off for Thanksgiving, regardless of like what that might look like this particular year. And it's going to be epic. It's going to be epic. Any other questions? Stomach is growling. My stomach is like, yo, you've been up since 5. How come you haven't fed me? Feed me, feed me. That's what my stomach is saying. Any other questions? All right. Y'all ready to sign up? Y'all ready to do this? You need to talk it over, thinking about ideas that ignite. Ideas that ignite. All right. All right, y'all. Well, if there aren't any other questions, I think it might be time for your girl to eat. To eat. I'm hella hungry. Hella hungry. If you know people who are interested in this particular program or who might be interested in doing a TED or TEDx talk in 2021, or if you know people who are storytellers, creatives, people who are trying to like figure out the best way to leverage their stories. If they want to become a paid speaker, if they want to become a trainer, if they want to become a podcaster, if they want to be able to sell their books, if they want to, whatever it is that you want to be able to do with your stories and your creativity, please tell them to check out Thursday's webinar. Thursday is going to be pretty much a repeat of today. But during the course of this week, I will be bringing on some more people. I believe Thursday, Diana is going to join us, who was one of the students from Story to Speech to Sale. She did a solo show, and she is now like starting to get ready to tour that around the college circuit, which is something that she had not thought about prior to joining the program. Shannon might be back with us as well, sharing a little bit more about his experience. So yeah, please tell people to check out the program, to join us in the Ideas That Ignite Facebook group, and we'll get them all the information that they need. All right? All right. All right, y'all. Cool. So I am going to go feed the stomach because I am just starving. But thank you for being here. Thank you for showing up. Samantina, Devin, Poonam. I really appreciate you all showing up live here. Go ahead and check out the Ideas That Ignite page. Let me know if you have any questions, if you need me to send you the link for a payment plan, if you're interested in doing that instead. You know, it's gonna be an epic group. It's gonna be an awesome group. So I'm so happy that y'all have been here as part of this journey. Sending you so much love from San Jose, California, and I hope to see you on the other side soon. All right, my loves. See you.